Who made the first flight in an aeroplane? We don't know his name, but he beat the Wright brothers to it by 50 years. He worked for Sir George Cayley, 1773 to 1857, an aristocratic Yorkshireman and pioneer of aeronautics, who carried out the first truly scientific study of how birds fly. Cayley correctly described the principles of lift, drag, and thrust that govern flight, and this led him to build a series of prototype flying machines. His early attempts with flapping wings, powered by steam and gunpowder engines, failed, so he turned his attention to gliders instead. In 1804, he demonstrated the world's first model glider and 5 years later tested a full-sized version, but without a pilot. More than 3 decades passed before he finally felt ready to trust his governable parachute with a human passenger. In 1853, at Brompton Dale near Scarborough, the intrepid baronet persuaded his reluctant coachman to steer the contraption across the valley. It was this anonymous employee who became the first human ever to fly in a heavier-than-air machine. The coachman, so the story goes, was not impressed. He handed in his notice as soon as he landed, saying, "I was hired to drive, not to fly." A modern replica of Cayley's glider, now on show at the Yorkshire Air Museum, successfully repeated the flight across Brompton Dale in 1974. But wings weren't Sir George's only legacy. With his work on the glider's landing gear, he literally reinvented the wheel. Needing something light but strong to absorb the aircraft's impact on landing, he came up with the idea of using wheels whose spokes were held at tension rather than being carved from solid wood. These went on to transform the development of the bicycle and the car and are still widely used today. And that wasn't all. Cayley was a remarkably prolific inventor, developing self-righting lifeboats, caterpillar tracks for bulldozers, automatic signals for railway crossings, and seatbelts. Even more remarkably, he offered all these inventions for the public good without expecting any financial reward. The Wright brothers made their famous flights half a century later in 1903. They were inspired by Cayley and by another unsung hero of aviation, Otto Lilienthal, 1848 to 96. A Prussian known as the Glider King. He was the first person to fly consistently. In the decade before the Wright brothers, he made over 2,000 glider flights before falling to his death in 1896. His last words were humble and poignant. Small sacrifices must be made. Stephen. Who invented the aeroplane? Rich Hall. It's Orville and Wilbur Wright. Klaxon. The Wright brothers. Peter Serafinovitz. Is it the Wrong brothers?